Hi, my name is Rob Howard. I'm the founder and Chief Technology Officer here at Telligent. Today I'd like to share with you some of the research that we did in our study of what it takes to become a world-class community. At the end of this brief presentation, I'll also provide some links where you can go to learn more information about world-class communities, download our white paper, as well as view the full on-demand webinar. In this brief video, what I'd like to touch on is something that we call the social ecosystem. Now, the social ecosystem is a tool that we have been using with customers to help them understand exactly how they should be thinking about approaching social technology, especially as it relates to external communities and internal communities. Now, in this graphic here, what you see is what we call the social ecosystem. It's the universe of all the different social connections that are available to you. So there's a multitude of things happening out there. Now, it's up to you to try and understand how to connect all those different pieces together. One of the ways that we like to think that it helps you understand this is by dividing this ecosystem or this universe into a series of layers. Now, this is work that we first released in July of 2010 alongside Mashable.com, where we identified 3 different layers of the types of communities that exist in the social ecosystem. The first type is what we call participating communities. Participating communities are the communities that you and I are most familiar with. They are communities that are formed on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and a variety of other consumer-facing social networking tools. The difference, however, is that unlike company-owned communities, which we'll talk about momentarily, in participating communities, these are communities that are formed typically by your customers to discuss your products and your services. So let's give an example of that. Let's say I'm a heavy user of Adobe Illustrator. I go onto the internet and search for some information about Adobe Illustrator. There's a very high likelihood that I'm going to land on a Facebook fan page or someone's blog post or a forum discussion that is discussing Adobe Illustrator in detail, maybe with some step-by-step guides for how to use this product. Now, why we call it a participating community is that as the organization, I have the right to show up and introduce myself and participate in those dialogues, but you have to recognize that you don't own that community. It is a community that is formed by your customers, and you have the right to participate, listen, and interact and engage with that audience, but you can't run the community. It's also important to make the distinction that in a participating community, you'll have both detractors as well as fans in that community. And you have to be able to understand that you have both those types of audiences, people that are going to be fans of your product and people that are going to be detractors. It's up to you to engage and participate in that community. The next layer in the social ecosystem is what we call managed communities. Now, a managed community is where, as an organization, you take some of the consumer-facing social networking tools like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and you use those to accomplish a specific business goal or objective. So let's give an example of that. One of the best examples that I'd like to use is Dell. Dell has a number of Twitter accounts that it uses under the auspice of being Dell's corporate Twitter accounts to communicate deals or specials that are available to its customers. Another example of a great managed community is the National Breast Cancer Foundation. The National Breast Cancer Foundation uses Facebook fan pages to communicate about its offering to women who are suffering from breast cancer. Lastly, there's what we call company-owned community. And in the research that Telligent did around world-class communities, we focused much of our research around company-owned communities. Company-owned communities are communities that you create on software, such as Telligent's, that serve a specific business objective. The key distinction between company-owned communities and participating in managed communities is that typically the company-owned communities enable you to own all of the data that's created within the community. So some examples of company-owned communities: Microsoft Windows Blog community. Microsoft Windows Blog allows the Microsoft product team to communicate information that's relevant and timely to its audience through a community property where it owns all the data and all the interactions. But what you'll notice about Microsoft's Windows Blog community, as well as the National Breast Cancer Foundation, as well as Dell, as well as many of the other leaders that have been successful in the deployment of online communities, is that they integrate all of these layers together. They view the company-owned community as the end destination where they want to draw those customers into because they want to connect them into their CRM systems or whatever it may be. But they recognize that the participating in the managed communities are in fact channels to help facilitate that. Now, in a future presentation, I'll also cover the difference between social networks and online communities. It's really important that you understand that a Facebook fan page takes advantage of a social network, whereas a company-owned community typically takes advantage of what's called an online community. The two are distinct, and if you watch our webinar, you can learn more about that. We also cover it in our white paper. So that's the end of this quick video. If you'd like to learn more, you can stay tuned to our world-class communities research. I've included the URL here. You can also contact Telligent if you'd like a more in-depth demonstration for your team or even some workshops that we put together on the characteristics of world-class communities. And we'd love it if you could follow us on Twitter as well as attend our next Thought Leadership webinar series, Strategies for Building World-Class Communities. And that webinar will be on March 23rd, 2011 at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And once recorded, it will also be available on demand.